Hey, everyone, Sleepy Reader with my comic book countdown for the week. My extremely subjective, how I felt in the moment that I read them kind of ranking of the comics. I've got 8 comics that I'm going to do. There should be more, but I am running behind on reading a lot of things. Here's some examples of some stuff I haven't read yet. Let's see. I've got whole bunch of Fantastic Fours to read. Quite a pileup of those. Oops, there's another one, number 16. I've got I'm hugely behind on Midwest, a comic I think of as one of my favorites, but I've let it really go. I think I probably have 5 or 6 issues to read, so it may or may not still be one of my favorites. And then I thought I would quickly catch up on Conan Serpent War, which I was hearing good things about, so I grabbed extra issues there, but I didn't end up getting around to it. I liked all the comics I read, but despite that, I was just, I don't know, not that into reading comics this week, so I kind of slowed way down. I don't know what that means. Do I need a break from comics, or is it just something about this week? Is it just something about new comics as opposed to reading back issues and my omnibuses of old things? I don't know. Be that as it may, also, although I liked everything I had, I think there was nothing that knocked my socks off and said, oh yeah, this is what comics are all about. It seems like sometimes I'll have 2 or 3 or 4 of those, and sometimes I'll have none of those. Luckily, I almost never, I can't think of any time I've had a stack of comics and I didn't like any of them. But here I liked all of them. But there still was a fairly clear ranking for me. And at the bottom, and perhaps what tired me out on reading comics a little bit, was this Wonder Woman 750. There weren't very many covers left at my store, so I liked this one best, but I haven't seen all 10 of the covers that cover the different decades. This is from the 60s, which is a bit surprising to have a J. Scott Campbell doing the 60s. Somehow I don't think of him as being anything like the 60s. But I like this cover. And I do, I shouldn't, but I do like the 60s Wonder Woman where she was depowered for a while. I thought that was kind of a cool era for Wonder Woman. So there were either stories in here that I liked okay, a few that really annoyed me. So it's one of these jumbles because it's 11 stories, I think, or 9 stories. Yeah, 9 stories. I'm sorry. There were cool pinups. Here's one by Liam Sharp. I felt as a celebration of all the decades of Wonder Woman, its focus, it didn't have that focus. I kind of hoped for more callback to different periods of Wonder Woman in a sense, and maybe bring back what creators there were. Maybe this was kind of looking forward. There were a lot of female writers, which we haven't really seen on the main Wonder Woman series. So some of these stood out as pretty good reads, including this one. I hate how they do the credits, though, so you can't immediately. This one is by Cami Garcia, a writer I never heard of, presumably a woman, and Phil Hester as the penciler. Very nice colors and pencils. Who's the colorist? Trish Mulvihill? I don't know. This one looked really nice, and it was just a slight, let's go back to what young Diana was like and why she might have wanted to leave Paradise Island. And some people may have wondered that. Some people may feel like, well, we've kind of gotten that story before, but it was okay. What were some of my... I really enjoyed this one called Emergency Visit, which was written by Shannon and Dean Hale, who I think write novels for young adults and adaptations for young adults, or for middle readers, I should say, for middle readers. And this definitely felt like a fun middle reader story, just about a little snippet about Diana's relationship with her mom, which was fun but not super consequential. I really liked the art by Riley Rossmo. I guess he could move into this young adult comics field easily. I never thought of that before. So I always thought of him as a quirky indie horror artist, really. What was The colorist Ivan Placentia. So yeah, no wonder the colors were really good. What were some of my other highlights here? This A Brave New World was very odd. It's written by Scott Snyder, art by Brian Hitch, an artist I like a lot. I didn't love his take on Wonder Woman, but it really wasn't about the take on Wonder Woman. This is the story here at the end where the first shot across the bow of DC redoing its chronology. So now I've heard on podcasts covering the business that they're planning to reset things so that Wonder Woman is the first superhero in the DC universe, which kind of makes sense if you take into account the way the DC movies have worked. And so she appears at the time of World War II and basically teams up with Roosevelt, in a sense, and is the inspiration for other people to become heroes, the way Superman used to be. But so I think this makes a lot of sense. I'll be interested to see where that goes again. The bizarre thing is, though, there's nothing internally here for the average reader who hasn't listened to the podcast I have to figure out that's what this story is about and what the purpose it serves. The other story that's really hard to figure out is the first story, which is a full 20-pager by Steve Orlando and Jesus Moreno, which apparently is sort of in media res of the current continuity of stories that are happening with Wonder Woman. And I got very little out of it. And Steve Orlando is one of my least favorite writers at DC. Sorry, Mr. Orlando, but his work just doesn't work for me. Not saying whether I think his work works for other people. But that was odd because it was just in the middle of things, and then it ended with another teaser for the next story in the continuing Wonder Woman. But it wasn't explained anywhere here. Oh, this is continued from Wonder Woman 749 and will continue in Wonder Woman 750. I mean, they just something just wrong with modern comic book companies where they just don't want to explain things. Oh, and here was a favorite of mine. It was, I think it was written by Gail Simone with incredible art and color. The art by Colleen Doran, and who I think I mostly just see on the fringes of things, and I'm wondering why not give her something like a Wonder Woman book or some other character at DC. Gail Simone and Colleen Doran. And artist color art, which was great, by Hi-Fi. I wish I knew who Hi-Fi was. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. It introduced, I don't know if it introduced or featured this character who's just new to me, who is named Star Blossom. There's not much explanation given for Star Blossom. She's a young hero being mentored by Wonder Woman, and that's very interesting, but we're not, again, no explanations, no context. I think there was a few others I liked. Oh yeah, this one was very good by Greg Rucka and Nicola Scott, one of DC's best artists, if she still is at DC. It looked really nice. It struck the right tone as kind of an evergreen story that, a timeless Wonder Woman story about her relationship with Cheetah. So that was really good. So yeah, there were good stories in here. There was no great stories, and it wasn't as much as I would have hoped for a celebration of Wonder Woman for basically how many years? 70 years of Wonder Woman, but not bad. But it was it felt like a chore to read one. I decided to read it first, and maybe that was a mistake. And so maybe that's why I was less excited about reading comics the rest of the week. So I'll rank for my Wonder Woman was number 8. For my number 7 is Wellington. This I don't have on my pull list. I picked up number 1 because of the artist, and I liked it pretty well. So I'm picking up number 2, and number 2 didn't. There's a lot of slack here. It just felt a bit baggy. It felt like things were happening in dreams. The plot was not progressing what the real plot, the real stakes, or anything of this story, which I presume is going to be a relatively short one. It's an IDW comic that hasn't got a lot of hype, so I'm assuming it's going to be a 4 or 5 or 6 issue story. But this issue felt kind of slack. I still love the art by Piotr Kowalski. I don't know how to pronounce his name. And great colors, really great colors by Brad Simpson. So I'll probably continue to pick it up off the shelves. There was maybe 1 or 2 interesting developments here, but it's just not very tight as a story. The writer is Delilah Dawson, from an idea from Aaron Mahnke and Delilah Dawson. I don't know those people. I think Aaron Mahnke is the creator of something called Lore. I don't know what that is. Is that a video game or something like that? So I don't know. I really wish Piotr Kowalski would get on some more high end things with top end writers and everything, because he's one of my favorite artists out here, especially when colored right in the modern comics world. And I think he's always off on the fringes. Totally in the center of things is Al Ewing's new, quote, reboot, new number 1, just because they want to have number 1s all the time, of Guardians of the Galaxy. And I've been following the Donny Cates Guardian of the Galaxy and enjoyed that. And this one is perfectly fine. I was a little bummed that it was a $5 issue, just because it's a number 1, and what meaning do number 1s have at this point? So that I had that kind of against it. I think I had high expectations because of Al Ewing being on it, but it seems like it's just going to be just another Guardians of the Galaxy adventure. The colorist on here was pretty cool. I think this might be the colorist that I really liked on. Do we have credits here somewhere? No. Because I have to go to the back of the book for the credits. I think this was the colorist that no, the color credits are, where are they? Right in the middle of the book. The colorist is Federico Blee. I think I saw him. I think he was on As Guardians of the Galaxy, and I really liked him there. So cool colorist, not afraid of bright colors, and puts a lot of effort into the outer space scenes and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it was just, let's gather up a new version of Guardians of the Galaxy to fight a new threat that threatens the entire universe and is just some new big bads. And it just felt so like done over and over again. Oh, here's a fantastic page though. I think it's a perfectly good comic, and I might, in a different mood, want it, but I decided I'm dropping Guardians of the Galaxy for now. Maybe I'll read it on Marvel Unlimited later or pick it up out of the cheap boxes, but I just don't feel like I need it. Maybe my expectations were wrong. So, and then in at number 5 was this Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror. Basically, I really liked one of the stories. And the other one I just didn't get that much out of. This one that's some kind of outer space remake of The Gold Bug. I know that's one of Edgar Allan Poe's stories, but I can't remember what it's about, and I didn't really understand what this issue was about, that story was about so much. This other one was a apparent remake of The Black Cat, and it was really kind of fun and twisted, and kind of an attack on the automobile industry, which maybe is a little unfair, but on an attack on lobbyists, in this case a lobbyist for the automobile industry, but lobbyists who try to undo environmental laws and screw over the environment for the sake of a little extra profit right now. I think actually a lot of the car manufacturers right now are trying to convince the government here in the U.S. to keep some of their standards that the government itself wants to get rid of. It was kind of Photoshoppy looking art. I think my love of Edgar Allan Poe and my enjoyment of previous issues kind of buoys this up. Maybe this was, in reality, quite a bit weaker than some of these other comics. But anyway, I still had fun reading it. Another crazy bit of slapstick. It was kind of like a bloody Spy versus Spy or Itchy versus Scratchy in Hunt Emerson's Poe and the Black Cat, which always gets 2 pages at the back. So anyway, still a fun package. I read a poem in here that I liked. I don't think I read the prose piece. I suddenly realized it's easier for me to switch gears from a comic book to a poem than from a comic book to a dense prose piece. I mean, it was only, I think, a 2-page prose piece, Eggs of the Dog That Bit You, which is probably good. A lot of their prose in these OA things is good. I should go back eventually and read a lot of the prose I've missed. I have read some of their prose and thought it was pretty cool. Let's see. Okay, in at number 3. Oh, sorry. Did I say Edgar Allan Poe was number 5? I might have said it was number 4. In at number 4 is Once and Future, which is really the finale of the story. And then they tack on some to be continued stuff afterwards so they can have more issues because it's become a hit. I kind of found the last 2 issues, the art was a little weaker still. Very good art. Dan Moore is a very good artist. And they have one of my favorite colorists on here, Tamara Bonvillain. So it was a good conclusion to the story, and it was fun. It didn't wow me as much as the earlier issues did for whatever reason. I think that's often the case when you conclude a story. So the emotional stakes maybe hadn't been built up that high. And anyway, I think I'll just stay on it, though. I want to see what they do next with these characters. I think they will continue to play on the King Arthur stuff, but they may be turning to a different character who's supposed to be a good guy from King Arthur who will be a bad guy, if I read the epilogue right. Then heading into my top 3 books, all of which I enjoyed a lot, is Shazam at number 3. I really like Jeff Johns' approach to this kind of all ages Shazam story, and he just continues to do a really good job. And its only flaws again are that it comes out a bit slowly, and that it's not all Dale Eaglesham art. Although this time the art duties were kind of divided up by place and time in a way that worked a lot better. So anyway, it was a thoroughly enjoyable chapter in a story that I've been enjoying. Not a whole lot more to say. I think this reads well serially, but if it came out more often, you'd keep the momentum going. It'll also read well in a trade, but it's definitely written for the single issues in a good way, I think, while being a continuing story. Batman surprised me because I was just sort of, it was a Batman story in the previous issue. I enjoyed the Tony Daniel art, issue 86, the first issue of this new creative team. But with this issue, the plot by James Tynion really kicks up a notch, and I feel like we're getting a complex mystery story with lots of supervillains and lots of intense stuff. And we got a different artist, Gilliam March. I think it's the same color as Toby Moret, who's a very good colorist. Although his colors give a different effect on March's art. And this is a page of March's art that I don't really like. I find it a little hard on the eye. But most of the pages I thought were really good storytelling and really fun to look at. And I don't recall March having such an intense style before, but he, especially on the villains, goes for this really intense look. And I really enjoyed that a lot. Some people are happy that Tom King is off this, and some Tom King fans are saying, oh, now you non-Tom King fans will get your simple Batman that you wanted. Time jump. Well, it's late at night now. The battery died on my iPad. I just have the last one to mention. Number 1 on my list of 8 was The Old Guard Force Multiplied, number 2, by Greg Rucka, Leandro Fernandez, and the colorist Miwa, who's very good. I think it's the art comes first for me here. It's a fun story, and then it really is knocked up several notches by Fernandez and Miwa's artwork. It's great storytelling and pacing of what is kind of a decompressed story. Now, part of what made it hit me strongest is because I read 2 issues in a row, actually. So kind of a cheat, but this was the thing I enjoyed reading the most this week. And it's, yeah, I don't know. It's a story of immortals, and if you think about it too hard, there's not much that makes a whole lot of sense. Like, if you've been alive for 6,700 years, would you spend all that time as a mercenary? Surely there'd be a lot more you could have done during that time. But anyway, as long as you don't think about it too much, this is very fun and nicely paced. And I'm interested to see where it goes. So anyway, yeah, good light entertainment. And I hear there's a TV show, or is it a movie, coming up with Charlize Theron in the lead. That'll be interesting. It'll have a very different feel than this artwork does, and with pretty actors and things like that. That'll be interesting to see, although really all I care about is the comic books. So that's it for me tonight. I'm pretty tired now. But I hope you're all having a good comic book week. I guess by the time you see this, it probably will be Wednesday or past Wednesday, and maybe you got your new comics. I'll be getting my new comics, and we'll see if I read them a little faster this time. Talk to y'all later.